Hey, yo, it's your favorite Sadie Batty, and I'm here with the most esteemed, my friend, the king, Steve. It's your favorite Sadie
Hold
Batty,
on. We
and
got an
I'm
echo.
here with
There we
the
go.
most esteemed, my
There we go. Sorry about that.
oh God, I didn't know how annoying my voice sounded. Anyways, um,
How are you doing, my sister?
immaculately, like a god, per usual. I had a great cleaning day. I sprayed the outside of my apartment so like the bugs and the lizards couldn't get in, and I cleaned the inside. Like, you should see this place. I went over everything with a fine tooth comb. Like, I even scrubbed the baseboards with a toothbrush. It looks great in here.
Hey, there's nothing like a little bit of cleaning. It really is therapeutic too, right? You get things in order externally. You feel the results internally. I love it. I love it.
Oh no! I was very frustrated, like scrubbing the grout because like I have tile floors, so I was scrubbing the fucking grout like all day.
Oh, you went on a real you went on a real cleaning spree.
Yeah, it was awful.
So why don't you roll it out? Let the folks know what we're talking about tonight, what we're getting into.
No, it's your topic, so I'm gonna let you roll it out. How about that?
All right, give me 1 second. I'm just sharing the live. But tonight, folks, we are going to be talking about something that I think that is extremely important. It's how to engage the opposition, right? Davinci and I disagree on fundamental issues, but we have learned to engage in intelligent conversation by one, showing respect, and two, doing the research on the other person's worldview and not just assuming that we know exactly what they're about to say or waiting for our turn to speak, but in actuality, actually giving some time and merit to each other's worldview. So that's something I wanted to talk about tonight because I see a lot of stuff on the internet, as we were talking about in the green room, is that people don't really know how to articulate their arguments and they don't know how to engage with the opposition. So that I thought it would be a useful conversation, especially since we didn't want to talk about the state senator doing the flat back twerk. You know, I feel
Oh my
like
god, can't stand that.
shout out to that young lady for doing it. Yeah, you know what the great thing about that was? She clapped back in the most impressive way. Like, she reacted to multiple tweets and gave each tweet the appropriate amount of interaction and respect.
I don't. I don't know. Like, there's just so many things going on in the country. Like, I don't think that I can pay attention to like just twerking videos anymore. Like, I understand that there has to be time for fun and all that shit like that, balance or whatever. But I don't know. I just can't focus on things like that right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world, and shout out. But I will say this to her, man. Shout out to her because it kind of lines up with what we're talking about. When she was doing her responses to tweets, even though I didn't agree with her points, she did respond though, right? And that's why I think this conversation, if you're tuning in or catching the recap, make sure you like and like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Also, catch the replay on Anchor and on YouTube and Twitch. And in the description below on YouTube is a link to Davinci's Discord. The Feminists Are Up, where you can rejoin the conversations. There's a bunch of great conversations going on there. Davinci does question of the days, which are always riveting and engaging. Eclectic mixed group with differing views, and they managed to do something that I think is extremely impressive. They don't name call, right? Which is another thing I want to get into tonight. I feel like people's IQ is really, it's low. It's really low, right? And people no longer are willing or have the ability to engage in an intellectual conversation or discourse. So let's get into it. Davinci, how the hell do you put up with me? How do you engage with the opposition? What are some tips and tricks you want to lay out?
I'm practicing patience constantly. I heard it was a virtue somewhere, and I decided to try my hand at it. It turns out like I'm not the most patient person, but I can last through a couple of conversations. I try very hard to be patient, because like I know like there's a lot of topics that I can get like triggered on, and I have to like take the time to sit back and think about like why I'm offended. There's a lot of introspection that goes on when somebody says something that immediately outrages me. Like I have to think like, am I a hit dog? Am I hollering? Did that just like hit a trigger spot for me because of something that was traumatic earlier? Like I just take a lot of time to be patient and introspective, and like those are things that I'm practicing, because let me tell you, my temper is hot. It's hot. It's like that's why I was down on my knees scrubbing the grout today, because my temper needs an outlet.
I gotta let it out. I gotta let it out.
And that's the most positive way I can think of to let it out. I think everybody has to have an outlet, but yeah, a couple of the things that I do when engaging in a conversation, and I feel that my patience is waning, is like I try to break down why I'm upset, or what was said exactly, like precisely. Was it the wording? Was it the tone? And like once you know like what it was that made you angry in those situations, it's easier to like work through like your thoughts on those things, you know?
Yeah, no. I can agree on that. So let me get piecemeal into it. Let me tell you why this was sparked, right? So perusing the internet streets, looking for topics, things to discuss. We could have gotten into Ukraine, we could have gotten into the China situation, and I feel like there are a lot of people doing great commentary on that. Not that we want to avoid it, but I think at the spirit of this show that we share here with each other is the opportunity to share with people one thing that I think that a few things that we've done really well, which is we engage each other's points, right? So you have a more structured way of engaging points, and this is something I've always respected about you. So we pick a topic, you do your research, you get all your talking points together, you're ready with a presentation, and that's more so I know for you, so you can stay on task. But it also shows me that you really deep dive into any topic that we're going to get into. You're researching the opposition, you're researching the points that maybe you agree with, you're looking for studies and data that are pro and for your argument. And I think that's something that a lot of people are lacking, because as I said, I was on those internet streets, and I noticed something. A lot of people are really quick to latch on to a content creator or a speaker and someone they feel like represents the point that they believe, because they're not able to articulate it. So I wanted to give people some tips and tricks to jump off of that bandwagon and start really delving into why they believe the things they believe. So one, you can make a robust argument in defense of it, and two, for God's sake, so you can articulate it. This is the first tactic I want to put out for people. Know what you believe, right? Know it, understand it, and know it. I think that sometimes people believe things and they don't understand why they believe these things. They don't know where the thought came from, and they're not even able to articulate it. What are your thoughts?
No, I think that maybe sometimes you and I are really blessed, because like I don't know about you, but like I work 3 to 4 days a week. That gives me plenty of time to hyperfixate on different things, different information and everything like that. There's a lot of people who work like 12, 14, 16-hour shifts, and at the end of their workday, all they have time to do is eat, shower, and go to sleep. And on the off chance that they do have an off day and they hear some crazy stuff, I think that they can recognize that it's crazy, and they want to put their input in on with the little time that they do have, but they don't really have time to think a lot about, or do like a deep dive like I do or like you do into what's being said. And I think that that's definitely a shame. But and a lot of times, like these big conversations aren't things that people prioritize in their lives. Like I know that I hear a lot of people well, of course, I hear a lot of people, but they talk about feminism, but they don't have any connection to it, and they don't have any empathy for it or with it and everything like that. Because like a lot of the points that I'm making are for women, and like especially a lot of people in the red pill community, like right. they're not really feeling the effects of things that are happening to women, so it's hard for them to connect with it. But there's a quote that I think about when I think about people who can't like really connect to the information that I give out specifically. It's like I can't remember who said it, but they said, first they came for the socialists and I didn't speak out because I wasn't a socialist. Then they came for what was it? Trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me.
Right. Right.
I think about that when I think about the people who, like, you know, don't really, first of all, have time, but second of all, don't really connect with what's being said, but still want to make commentary for it. So I forgot the question. I'm sorry.
It's all right. It's all right. Maybe because you answered it. So, and that's another thing I think people are unable to do. They're unable to, or I had to learn to do myself, which is engaging with the actual question and, you know, responding to what's been said. You're right. I do, you know, we do spend an enormous amount of time because we're passionate about this stuff, researching it. I think one of the things that I really enjoy doing, and I've noticed a lot of people, or some people I've encountered don't do, is they don't bathe themselves in the opinions of the opposition, right? So one thing I did when I first, early on when I became a Christian, was there's a thing in Christianity called apologetics, and the Greek word is for a defense of the faith, right? You're giving a reason for why you believe what it is you believe. And so when I first came to faith, I asked myself, well, what are the things that I was critical about Christianity? What are my number one gripes, my things I disbelieve and all that stuff? And I used the form of reverse apologetics, and I said, okay, well, I'm going to show this subject matter the respect it deserves. And I started doing research. I literally thought out in my mind, here have been my biggest issues with Christianity in regards to doctrine, validity, and I went to the most trusted sources, right? I went to their most learned scholars to see what they had to say on it, and then I would go into the information, research everything they were saying to the best of my ability, and then I saw, I would then compare it to my disbelief, and then I matched it up. I'm like, well, okay, where are the gaps in my understanding? Where was I wrong? Can I be honest that I didn't know everything that I thought I knew about this? And there's data out there that I need to engage with. And I've done that with you as well, like in regards to feminism, right? So when I knew we were going to do this show, actually, when we did our first interview with each other, I was like, let me go back and look at the waves of feminism. Let me look at the historical context. Let me look at the social context. Let me look at the players that are involved. What did what do their great thinkers have to say about it? Where are my gaps in understanding? And I think that's something people will not do in regards to opposition. Sometimes people go to echo chambers, right? And this is the problem from my vantage point with social media. People find echo chambers for themselves. They find someone that validates something they believe. They don't do any research on the person that's presenting the information that's validating their belief, and they just start regurgitating it. And then when they're finally faced with someone who's not just willing to be beat upside the head with a bunch of quotes and internet meme information, and they say, okay, well, prove that, the entire argument falls apart. Right? Because they've never done any research on the opposition, because the opposition isn't always wrong. Like, there's something that they're saying that has to be valid, right? There has to be some part of their argument that is valid enough for them to believe it. What do you think?
I think that people get stuck in echo chambers sometimes because it's extremely exhausting trying to tell somebody something who's not trying to listen to you. They come disgenuinely to the conversation, not willing to hear what you have to say, not willing to give ground or get ground and everything like that in the conversation. And so, like, I know, especially for me, like, I want to get to the more intricate details of of a topic, and in order to do that, I don't want to lay the groundwork for you again. Like, another one of the reasons that, like, my show was particularly exhausting to me was every episode, there would be people who would come in and then they would be like, okay, what is feminism? And, like, it's hard for me to get to things like intersectionality, or like different viewpoints of feminism, um, when I'm stuck describing or giving a definition for it for the first hour and a half of
Right.
every live. Like, it was very hard for me to get to the intricate details. And so, like, it was very easy for me to surround myself with people who already understood, like, the basics, and they could interact with those things. Also, another thing, besides, like, people being like disgenuine, I'm having a stroke, disgenuine with the conversation that they're having and not really engaging with the subject matter, is it a lot of the things that I talk about are like rights that women should have, like, and if somebody else just thinks, like, women should cook and clean and, like, be seen, not heard, and things like that, then, like, I don't think that I want to have a conversation with you anyway. Like, it's just exhausting.
No, I can respect that, because often the type of cats that come in with that type of argumentation, it's they couldn't even tell you why, right? So you'll say, well, why do you think women should just cook and clean and be seen, not heard? And like, well, that's just the natural order. Okay, well, how is that natural order relevant today? You start asking questions like, how would it improve the lives? Why would women choose to do something like that? And usually around that third question, they'll probably just start saying stuff like, oh, you're just argumentative. Well, it's like, no, I'm not being argumentative. I'm asking you to support your position. Why should women do this? Explain how this would be beneficial. And I think that's another thing people struggle with. That's not a view I hold. I do believe in the structure, which is which is the man being the provider, the woman being the one in the house that is uplifting, not the man. I know you thought I was going to go there, but is actually the person in the house transmitting culture to the children. But that doesn't mean that she's in a subordinate role, and I think people get that mixed up. But that's for another show. But you have to be able to explain why this would be beneficial. And I remember one thing that you were talking about a couple of episodes ago on Dope Dynamics, and you had brought it up on this show before, is that you would no longer speaking up on behalf of men's rights because they didn't see the benefit of feminism and how that could be a positive in for males. Did I get that correct?
Yes, I've said something to that effect before. Like, I did a live a while back talking about male health and reproduction, and, like, I had my big old "the feminists are up" logo, and they were seeing the feminists are up, and they were hearing things about men, but they weren't negative, and, like, it just wasn't computing. And so there were people coming in like, why are you talking about men's issues anyway? You're a feminist and da da da. And I was just like, wait, what?
So that brings me to my second point about engaging in opposition. For the love of everything holy, Jiminy Crickets, please make sure, right? You are actually responding to a point that's been made. Right. So right there, what you described. Okay. So they came in, they saw your banner, the feminists are up, but I'm sure there was a subject line in there as well. And it probably read men's health or something to that effect. If someone's making a point, go ahead.
The question that was under it was, I think, what was triggering. Like, I posted a study that was talking about how men will be infertile by, like, 2050 or something something like that, because of microplastics and masturbating a lot. And like, I posted this study, and I posted several studies that corroborated it. They were peer reviewed, and it wasn't like a shot at men, like, ahaha, you're going to be infertile.
Right.
It was like, hey, this is something that you guys should probably be aware of and address within your own community. Like, this is something that we all need to address, like the consumption of microplastics. But that's not how people took it. They were like, oh, you just want men to go extinct because you're a misandrist, you're a man-hating feminist. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, okay, whatever. You know?
But that's my point. Being able to respond logically to the point, or the assessments being made. Now, you can disagree, but please disagree with what's actually being said. Too often when I see people from either side of the table, right or left, feminist or red pill, whatever you'd identify as, whatever it logical or illogical viewpoints you may share, respond to what's being actually said. And I think this is a result, or maybe it could be, of the internet. People respond to the voice in their head, not what the person is actually saying, right? And I notice this happen a lot because you'll make a statement, right? And you may even repeat the statement. I've gotten into the habit of saying, like, now I want to be clear, this is what I'm actually saying versus what you're going to accuse me of saying. And still, people will say something to the effect of the thought they're having. Shout out Zach and Plays. Welcome in, my brother. They respond to the statement they want you to be making. Have you ever experienced that before?
Absolutely. And I feel like that really gets on my nerves for two reasons. Like, it shows that A, you're not really listening to me, and B, even though you're not really listening to me, you've already decided in your head that you want to fight with me.
Okay. I'm sure you get a lot of that. I get that too. And that's my point. It's like, okay, so let's say, for instance, right, you're making an argument, you're a red pillar, you're making an argument for a traditionally structured home, right? And someone comes in and they're saying, well, what about this? I always hold people to account to what I'm actually talking about. I'm like, well, hey, this is the subject we're talking about. Do you want to respond to that before I respond to the statement that you've brought up? Because more often than not, people can't respond to what you're saying. They're just going to go to the, here it is, but what about this argumentation? What about this? I'm like, okay, we can get into that, but let's answer this question first. For instance, whenever you and I have a conversation, and I don't think we've ever had a real formal debate about feminism and masculinity and all these things. We've kind of danced around it before, but the point that what I've trained myself to do is, when you make a point about feminism, right, in regards to rights for women, if you make a valid point, which is then upheld by facts, right? And I'm like, okay, historically, everything she said is correct. My next move should not be, well, what about this? I need to engage with the statement you made. And there are two responses. Either I say, no, you are wrong because of this, this, and this, or I say, you are correct, but I would like to bring some new information to the table. Like, if you cite research, the only response I should have, or responses I should have to any research that you present, are counter researches, counter data that either invalidates or brings new light, or I should be conceding to, okay, yes, that is the most relevant and most up-to-date information about this topic. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. But again, like you said earlier, that's almost never it's almost never what happens, because like you said, I think that people are responding a lot of the time to what they want you to have said, and not exactly to what you've said. And like, I think sometimes that makes it impossible for conversation to continue thereafter, because if you haven't listened to anything I've said, um, ooh, I'm having a stroke. If you haven't had any listened to anything that I've said, like initially, like what gives me any indication that you're going to listen any further? Like the problem that I have a lot of the time is that uh, I kind of check out because I understand like this argument is disgenuine. You're not talking to me so that we can have a conversation. You're talking to me because you want to establish dominance by also establishing the intellectual high ground. And I'm just not interested in a pissing match. I I'm just not. Like I want to learn something. I want to do something. I like
Which brings me to the next point. But before we get there, I want to talk about that. Yes, conversation should not be about one upping, right? Especially if you're having a conversation where you're hoping to have an exchange of ideas. What you're describing is that debate bro type of debate where it's like, I didn't come with a genuine argument. I didn't come to genuinely learn anything. I came looking for blood. Right. And I think both parties have to agree on that. I always agree not to do that. I always talk about this, man. There was a debate I watched between a Christian theologian and an Islamic theologian, right? Obviously, these guys don't agree on anything but a few points, right? They agree that there's a God, and they don't even agree that it's the same God. But during their debate, the entire time they engaged each other's points. They never used red herrings. They never used straw man arguments. And there's some people who would say whenever you say the term strong man that you just don't want to respond to what they're saying. But it's like, no, man, we're having a conversation. Engage with what I'm saying versus using some invalid point. But also you have to be intellectually honest. What is your motivation into stepping into this? If we're having a debate, then let's declare it a debate. If we're having a conversation, then I'm not here to beat you up. I'm trying to learn from you. I'm trying to get some data from you, which is the next thing I want to bring up. Know what the hell it is the conversation is about. Too often, two people with opposing views would get together and neither one of them know what the hell they're talking about. Know what be able to articulate what it is you believe. I was in your live one time, Demicky, man, and I was listening to some guy mammer and stutter his way through his point, and I was like, I have no idea if he's disagreeing with her, if he's agreeing with her, because I don't know what he believes. Say it. Say what it is you believe, and then be able to explain it. Is that too much to ask?
No, I don't think that is too much to ask. But a lot of the times, what happens when people kind of do that, like, word vomit shit, is they're trying to say what they actually mean in the least offensive way possible.
Okay.
So they're trying to muddle through the fucked up thing that they're trying to say in the least fucked up way possible, so it doesn't just nobody just writes them off because what you're saying flat out like is fucked up.
Wait, give me a for instance. What do you mean?
Like I'm trying to think. Like if I were to say like instead of just being like, oh, flat out I'm a centrist, people will be like, oh, well, I think that it's good to like listen to everyone's thoughts because I think we can all agree on something. Like just say that you're a centrist.
Just say I don't want to get into a fight right now. I believe
Right. They don't say the quiet part out loud, and I think that that's why a lot of people muddle through conversations because they want to be like the least amount of controversial as possible. Or if the person wants to be controversial, they use it as like shock value for their points because like if you use shock value, then a lot of the time people think you're going to be too stunned to respond in a way that matters.
Right.
And that's annoying.
No, it is, man. I think that what happens is it makes me doubt someone's convictions, which is something else I'm going to get into here is if you haven't spent enough time doing research on your own opinions, right? And there's nothing, no worries, Sensi. Thank you for being here, my brother. And thank you for everyone that's tuning in right now. If you haven't spent enough time to do research on your own thought process, then why should I take you serious? Right? Here's a for instance, right? There are a lot of Kevin Samuels acolytes that are out there, but they couldn't tell me his fully formed view, right? They couldn't be able to represent his viewpoint beyond I agree with this and I agree with that. I'm like, well, okay, but the brother laid it out, right? He actually laid out, short of like a cohesive doctrine, why he believes the things he believes and how he has put them into play. Can you tell me how that information is relevant with you? Which is usually supported by, well, I engage this information by doing this, this, and this. But it's, more often than not, it's not that. It's just like, well, no, I just agree with him. Okay, I agree with a lot of things, but if I'm not putting it into play in my life, then you don't really do anything other than just listen to things. You haven't done anything with this information. You're not bettering yourself. You're just talking shit. And that's the next thing I want to get into. If you don't really have a point to make, stay out of the conversation. There are too many trolls that have made their way into conversations, whether they be online or at your dinner table, where it's like, man, you don't actually have a point. You're just a broken contrarian, right? Whatever I say, you're going to say the exact opposite. And when I say, can you support that? Then I've seen this argumentation a lot too, where it's like, well, I don't have all the data on hand. I'm like, well, why'd you bring it up then? You said it like you had all the data on hand. You presented an argument like you had everything in hand. Why would you do that? Why would you show up, ruin my Thanksgiving with your half-ass argument and not be ready to support it? You know what I'm saying?
No, yeah, definitely. I think I feel sorry for people like that sometimes, because I think that they just want to be heard. So they just spit something out. It's not a complete thought. It's not a whole thought. But they spit it out. And then I think that's also like how a lot of people form their ideologies. They're just wrong a lot. And until they eventually hear something that they're just like, oh, I think I'll pick that out and add it to what I believe and everything like that. I think that they just it's kind of akin to like muddling around in the dark until you hit something and you grab onto it type thing.
Yeah, it's like being on a bad date and realizing the person is just repeating what you're saying in a different way.
Absolutely. And
Vicky, you're funny. Go ahead. I'm
a
sorry.
bad date where they show up in jeans and don't bring you chocolate or flowers. Terrible.
What's up, D Love? Yeah, I really do. I really do believe, and the reason why this is a subject that I'm passionate about is because I think at the crux of it, right? If by not having a point, you are also misrepresenting the view that you're trying to articulate, right? You are discrediting the very thing that you believe. I think that too often people, like you said, just want to be heard, right? Maybe they haven't had the opportunity to be listened to. They latch onto something and they don't do enough research. So then they're not able to say what it is they believe, which makes you sound one of two things: uninformed and disingenuous, right? Because why would you say something means so much to you and not be able to articulate? Now, I'm not attacking anyone's intelligence. There are many people who didn't graduate high school, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but they have been some of the most prolific speakers and orators of our generation or any generation. And they did that. They were able to do that because of passion and research.
Zach said, "What's wrong with jeans?" And I want to die a little inside. I'm an adult, sir. Wear some slacks.
Shout out to Zach. Zach, Da Vinci expects slacks and flowers unprompted when she goes on a date with a man.
Yes.
Just so you know that, Zach.
You should never show up to somebody's house empty-handed for the first time. Like, what is that?
Again, did you represent that viewpoint in the initial deal making?
We had just several conversations, and I know I brought it up at one point or another.
You think you brought it up.
I know I did.
D Love says DeVinci wants flowers and chocolate on deck. But that's a part of conversation, right? You like knowing what it is, the expectation is, what you're saying, and all that stuff. All right. Now, this is the thing that really, really gets my goat, right? This has less to do with about learning how to engage with the opposition. It's just more of a pet peeve, right? I cannot stand when people can't support their argument and they pull this trick out the bag. Well, I didn't come here to debate. I'm like, but you're the person that brought it up. Have you ever been in that situation where someone is so passionate about something and then they engage you on a day where you're thinking clear and you got time for it, you got them on the ropes, and then they're like, well, I didn't come here to debate. What is that about? Can someone explain that to me? You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do know. I know exactly what you're talking about. I think that people are used to people not wanting to be argumentative, but I'm that bitch. I will argue with you every day of the week. Why did you post that? Now I lost my train of
Sorry.
You cannot show up with shorts and a t-shirt with a hole in it. I will close the door.
No, here's the funny thing, right? That's my buddy Zach. Shout out to my first podcast host, the man that taught me everything I know about streaming, and I used to annoy the shit out of him. Zach will actually not show up. I'm calling him on that. He will not show up in jeans and a holy shirt if it's a woman he's interested in. He's a classic man, and he's going to show up in a button down and some slacks if you're going out somewhere nice, especially if you say we're going out to go do some golfing. Zach's going to show up in golfing attire.
You bet not. You better not show up in some shorts and a t-shirt after I spent hours getting dressed. Do you know how expensive makeup is? Like, do you know how much I spent on my nails alone?
D Love says, better bring my favorite flowers and not any random flower.
You know what? The bar is in hell right now. So like any flowers will do.
Oh man. And well, listen, here's the thing. Again, know what you're negotiating for. If you didn't say it, the expectation can't be there. Now that it's out there to all the millions of people that tune into, I guess we can agree on that. Everyone knows that DeVinci wants flowers and slacks on a date, and that D Love says do not show up with random flowers, right? So now it's out there. People are going to know coming up. Zach says
I like orchids if you're interested. Any variety.
Orchids is on the table. Yeah, I guess, and I don't want to beat a dead horse in this, but I want to bring up another point that I think engaging with the opposition, and this is going to sound redundant, but I want to make sure I'm clear and I can say it for the people in the back. Know what the other side actually believes. Be able to represent the viewpoint of the other side. This is an amazing thing that's happened in America and the world where people say the exact opposite of what the opposition actually believes. I've actually met people who have come to me and said, no, this is what Christianity is. And then I'm like, okay, can you explain to me what Christianity is? What are you saying? And by the time they're done talking, I'm a little bit dumber. And then I realize they know nothing about what I believe. Have you ever experienced anything like that before?
Yeah, that's a odd phenomena. Like I said, people aren't used to a lot of the time people bringing up an argument with them, because like when you want somebody to get off your back, like I know that I'm definitely guilty of this. I'll be like, yeah, sure, whatever. you know. Not agree with a word that came out of your mouth, but be like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, shut up now.
That's a trait I need to develop. I always have time to argue. I'm like, I don't agree. It's 4 a.m, but I was sleeping before. I'm gonna get out of bed, get some coffee, show you the respect you deserve, and so I can argue into a stupor. But I'm sure I'm sure you've experienced this. Like, and we touched on it a little bit. If you don't agree with feminism, should you not at least know what feminism is? Is it is it a spiritual ideology? Is it a political ideology? Is it social? Where does it impact? Where did it start? How did it begin? Where is it headed? What are the thought patterns of the people who participate in it now? Is there a core doctrine that's shared? Are there splinter groups? How can you identify someone's behavior as feminist? Same thing when it goes to religious beliefs. To all you atheists, hellbound people, what is it that you don't agree with in regards to religion? What is the view and the doctrine of the religion you don't agree with? Do you actually know about this thing that you have so much disdain for? Is Kevin Samuels a pro? Oh, wait, wrong show. My bad. I'm sorry, DaVinci. I'm sorry.
Chill out. Chill out. I will blow up this entire show. if you get on that, man.
My picture's not even going to be there, and it's going to be that beautiful dark angel of light. Kevin Samuels is right there on the screen. But you should know what the opposition is.
I'll log out.
I'll log you back in. You're gonna be like, how the hell did he get remote access to my computer? You should know what the opposition believes, and I think it does no credit to you. And I believe that a lot of people don't understand this. Every time you share your viewpoint publicly on any platform or in the streets and individual conversations, you're evangelizing people. You're trying to make them understand, whether it's subconscious or not. You're trying to rally people to your viewpoint. And if you're discrediting another view, you should know what it is you're actually discrediting. That's why I never came into the Feminists Are Up looking for any problems. I had to do research. I wouldn't come in that way anyway, but I've seen a lot of people come into your lives, and it's like, oh man, you really don't know what her brand of feminism is, right? You don't know what it is she's actually saying. I will give you credit that you will, very much so, even if you may not agree with my point, if I've made a valid point or you don't understand my viewpoint, you'll ask follow-up questions. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because like I don't know, maybe that's something that I'm really good at, because I'm very used to like masking or intellectualizing my feelings. So I have to understand something, and that's just me. Like, I know that's not like everybody's thing, but that's what I do, and that's what makes me really good at conversation. Is for the majority of my life, I spend a good portion like intellectualizing the things that I feel instead of feeling them. And so I've been really good at like asking questions, looking up, like doing research and everything like that, because it had to make sense to me, or else people would belittle the way that I felt. So that's why like that's my strong suit. But everybody hasn't had that kind of exposure. Everybody didn't have that same insecurity. So like I feel like I can't fault a lot of people for not operating the same way that I operate, because they weren't insecure about the same things that I was insecure about. I existed almost purely in academia for the majority of my life. And so there were an abundance of people who would be like, oh, well, that's just how you feel. And so I had to come up with a way to be like, oh, this is what I feel, but like add a little spice, you know, like there have to be facts behind it, or else nobody would take me seriously.
Well, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think sometimes in an argument, Zach brought it up before, never fight facts with feelings, always fight facts with facts. But at the same time, there's nothing wrong with being passionate about a topic, right? So we have to be able to discern the difference between passion and then someone just becoming belligerent, right? I think you would agree there's a difference there, right? I could start speaking about something loudly because I'm passionate about it. It's a different thing for me to be like, you're a fucking idiot, right? And say something like that, because that's no longer supporting my argument. But I think that knowing what the other side believes and then knowing what you believe and showing up with data to support your point, it's not going to hurt. And, you know, that's one of the things whenever you do, pick the topics when you have time, you'll send over your thought process, all your notes. So you give me the chance, especially if it's something we're going to disagree on, to engage with your points. Right. And that's the way I know.
The internal monologue.
Oh, that is crazy dope.
The internal monologue highlighted in red, so you know that it's not a part of the research. It's the internal monologue. Gotta love it.
specifically anti-Christian. I was like, I love how she highlights her own thoughts in the biblical red. And I'm reading it, and I'm like, oh, this is her inner monologue. But still, right? It's also an opportunity for me to understand your thought process on this. And I think that's why the conversation can be robust, even when we're disagreeing. This brings me to my final point about engaging the opposition, right? But I want to say this, and I want to say it with a lot of care. We have to stop being cowards. And you brought this up before. Say what you mean and mean what you say, and have the courage of your conviction. Too often, I have had people try to put a battery in my back because they know I'm willing to say whatever and do whatever during any conversation, right? I'm not ashamed to say what I believe. But for the love of God, if you believe something so strongly that you can send people text messages at 2 a.m. or write long Discord paragraphs, you should have that same courage to say it publicly. What do you think?
I don't know. Not everybody is the leader of a movement. Like not everyone is the speak out type person. Like I have a person in my Discord right now. Shout out to Mello. He is a very quiet, like, kind of awkward, like, but very smart and robust personality. But like he's quiet. He's a listener. He definitely has thoughts. He definitely has opinions, but that's not his position. In the fight against the things that we're fighting against. Like his position is to observe and, like, maybe, like, be the voice of reason when you're getting kind of out there, when you jump out the window. Like Mello will be the voice of reason because he's been listening and watching the entire time. And I think that everybody has a position in an ongoing conversation,
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're saying, but even in that description, you described a type of action, right? So you're saying that Mello will come to you and be like, yo, you just jumped out the window a little bit. And I'm going to assume, well, maybe I shouldn't assume, would that also include when you said something that isn't correct? Not you, for instance, but is Mello the type of person to do that?
Yeah, no, he's jumped out the window on me on a couple of occasions. Like when I was setting up my Discord, there were some huge holes in it, and he was just like, "Girl, what were you doing? Like, you know better." Like, and this and this and this and this. and he,
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
and he didn't like hold my hand about it. He was just like, "Hey, if you want to fix this, like you have to be active. Like, you have to do the research. I'm not gonna hold your hand through this," but was also very supportive in fixing the giant gaping holes. A lot of the people in my community were very supportive and like fixing the holes in and like they weren't afraid to like step up to me, even though I'm a very robust personality. At that point, I'm sure they didn't know how I would take corrective criticism, but they said it anyway and in the most respectful way. And like we moved on past it. Like everybody has different positions. Like maybe my position is to be more robust because there are people who are more robust and they're more likely to listen to me because we're on the same wave, but they wouldn't give any space to somebody who's timid, like Mello, which I don't necessarily disagree with, but like or agree with, but that's how it goes down.
No, I get what you're saying, but see, even in that, like I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. There's an action in that, right? And when I say people lack the courage of their conviction, so if Mello is the type of person that's willing to come to you, whether it's about the structure of your Discord or the articulation of your own viewpoint, and say, "Hey, you were wrong about this," there's courage there, right? Or at the bare minimum, there's a willingness to stand by,
very much,
to stand by what you believe. I think too often people lack the courage of their conviction. And this, again, this is just be me jumping out the window. It's one of my character defects. I often do not want to hear from people who will not put into play the things that they are talking about, right? Or do not have the ability to articulate them outside of a private text chain, right? Because then I start to doubt your conviction on this. Like, don't send me stuff that you're not willing to speak on. And I'm not saying you got to get on social media and make a video, but why is it so important in private, but yet it's not important in public, right? Are you sharing this information with your family, right? Or are you just an angry person
No,
on
that's
the internet?
important.
Do you understand what I'm saying? I've had hard conversations. I'll never forget, man. My younger sibling came up to visit, and we have totally different worldviews, DaVinci, but obviously we're siblings, and I love my sibling, and I will do anything to protect them. Anything at all. But we had one of those blow up arguments because they were listening to our podcast, and they're like, I can't believe you believe the things you believe. And I'm like, hey, allow me to normalize that. But I wasn't going to back down in that moment, not the argument, but I wasn't going to back down in that moment. And one, not be accountable for the things I've said, right? And then I wasn't, two, not going to have that conversation with my sibling and go, completely limp wristed on it and just throw away my own views. I was more willing to hear my siblings' views and like, hey, let's talk this through. I understand we're probably not going to come to a position where we agree, but I'm not going to misrepresent you, and I'm not going to allow you to misrepresent me. And because I was willing to stand on my convictions, much like in our conversations, there's a deepness there, right? Because there's no shallow bullshit. We're not pretending. We're not pretending to just agree to disagree. It's like, hey, we don't agree on these things, but I love you. But we're not going to separate, but we don't agree. D Love is asking a question. I put it up there. Sorry, God bless you, buddy. Sorry, I don't know if I heard this right. There's a difference between DaVinki's feminist views and the modern feminists. If so, what are they? I usually that's more me, D, saying that because there are some differences in DaVinki's application of her feminist views versus. And I'll just take the accountability of my own breath. The way that I've seen other feminists represent their views. Would you agree with that assessment, DaVinci?
I think that's a very sweet way of putting it. I think
not sweet way of putting it.
I think when people say modern feminist, I think a lot of the time they're talking about people who are on social media and they're claiming to be feminist, but they don't do really a lot of the work, because a lot of the modern feminists that like I'm in touch with or I listen to, like I agree with everything that they say. So I don't know what you mean by quote unquote like modern feminist. Because the modern feminists that like I listen to or I respect and things like that they've done the work. They look at the feminist philosophy. They read other books by other feminists like Roxane Gay and everything like that, and they can reference those things. And the only feminist that like I don't really like hearing from, or like people who say that they're feminists, but they don't really know anything about feminism. They just think that they should be feminist, and so they say what they think feminism is,
Yeah, in Christianity we call them cultural Christians. They're the people that are like, God bless your soul. And I'm like, give me 3 verses from the Bible. And they're like, well, I don't know why I put a Southern accent on. I'm not trying to offend anyone from the South, but I know exactly what you're saying. But yeah, I have a huge disdain for people who lack the courage of their convictions, man. I'm not asking anyone. If I'm just looking at my viewpoint, I know that no one's going to be a perfect Christian, right? And I know people are going to slip, they're going to fall, they're going to do all types of stuff. I'm a prime example. Don't look to me for moral, don't look to me as your moral example. But at the same time, I'm willing to stand on my convictions, right? And I'm willing to act out on my convictions, man. In critical moments, I'm going to use what I know to be truth, and I'm gonna walk through that. I'm gonna walk through it with a lot of fear, but I'm gonna do it to the best of my ability. I think too often I see people who say they believe things, but there's no proof in their day-to-day life that they actually believe these things, right? And if so let's go feminist and red pill, right? I have met, and I've talked to you about this before, I've met a lot of social feminists where there's no proof no proof at all that they believe in feminist theory in any way, shape, or form, or at least maybe they don't understand it, so they're just acting out on what others have told them feminism is, right? And then I've seen the same thing with a lot of red pill guys. I'm like, I don't even think you understand how that movement started, what they actually believe, which credit is true. It's hard to lock down a core ideology with that group of brothers over there. They have different variations, but let's say you do believe in the things that are being espoused by the red pill. So if we go to their highest thinkers, it's about being accountable. It's about being self-dependent. It's not just about a woman being in subjugation to you. That's not what it's about at all. Like, you want a woman to submit to your leadership. Well, then that means you have some form of leadership, right? Why would she submit if you're just working at McDonald's? What's to submit to? What's to submit to if you're living with your mother? Why should she listen to anything you have to say? Why should she follow your leader? Your leadership, what does it even mean to be a leader? And that's what I'm saying. Before you fix your mouth up to say you believe something, are you practicing it? Like, do you have the ability to step out in the end? Here's for instance, I don't want to die. Right? I don't want to die, but I pray every night that I would have the courage to step out and do what God has commanded me to do in regards to living out my faith, man. I don't agree with a lot of Da Vinci's views, but I would never let the Gestapo come to her house and drag her out if I'm in proximity. And I have evidence that that's what Christians have been doing for hundreds of years for people who don't share their same belief system. I would want to have that type of courage to walk through my conviction. Make sense?
Yeah, it definitely does, but I think that sometimes you have to be aware that like the application of an ideology is much harder than like, just reading it. Like internalizing information, catching yourself when you slip back into bad habits is much harder than just reading a piece of information and agreeing with it. And a lot of people think that all you have to do is agree.
Right.
That's the bulk of the work that you have to do. You just have to agree, but the application is so much harder. Like the application of feminism in my life, like the difficulty of it shows up every single day. Every single day it comes knocking, and every single day I have to make choices and think about like what I believe and everything like that, and choose actively to act out the things that I believe in the best way that I know how. And sometimes you're going to slip up on that. Like you might slip out 3 times out of 4. You might slip up 5 times out of 10 and everything like that. But it's an everyday thing. And sometimes what people do is they project what they agree to, that like they'll say it, and then like it, since they've been doing what they've been doing for so long, like they don't notice when their actions aren't in alignment with what they believe, until somebody's like, hey, ain't you saying you was a Christian? Or hey, ain't you saying you was a feminist?
Right.
Or things like that. And they have to go back and be like, oh shit, my application's fucked up,
Yeah, no, absolutely. When I got called out for cursing, which is something I still struggle with, and I got a hard rebuke, as we say in the church, for cursing on lives, because I know I get passionate about topics. I could make the lazy argument that Paul cursed and that John the Baptist cursed, but I'll just be accountable for my own sin. I agree with you 100%. I just think that in regards to learning how to engage opposition, if you lack the courage of your conviction, why do you think you have the right to speak on it? This is something that perplexes me, keeps me up 4 a.m, just going through the internet, and I'm like, you're posting a lot of stuff, but I know for a fact you wouldn't have, not you, to these people, you wouldn't have the courage to say that to that group's face. Like, you would not, like, and I see this with people. I see it with, Christians who are disagreeing with Islam. I see it with Muslims who disagree with Christians. I see it with people who disagree with the LGBTQ plus community. I see it with people who disagree with feminists. I see it with feminists who disagree with chauvinists. I'm like, you lack courage, because you wouldn't say it to that group's face. You wouldn't step into the phone booth, as it were, and say, hey, let's cam up. Let's have a conversation. I'm going to bring my information in order. You bring yours, because people are scared of being proven wrong. I think people really, really, really are scared that they won't be able to defend what it is they believe. Or if it's not that, you're just a weekend warrior, right? For instance, I love doing Dope Dynamics, but I think you and I can both agree I'm the only person on that show that has the views that I have, right?
Yeah, I think so.
But I still got the courage to come up there and fight against you heathens. I mean, my brothers and sisters, every night, and have a good conversation. And I love y'all. And I love y'all, man. But I know there are people who, like, they hit me up, they send me emails, they send me text messages, they send me side messages. And like, why didn't you say this? Why didn't you say that? I'm like, well, we dropped the link for the show in the chat. Why didn't you jump on? I missed something. Why won't you come up and say it? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, why won't you jump into the fray? Not you. I know
yes,
you.
Yes, I know, not me. Like I said earlier, I think that people are scared of confrontation, or not even that they're scared of confrontation. A lot of the time, they just don't want to deal with it. I know that I'm guilty of that sometimes, because like I think like a week or 2 weeks after the abortion conversation that I had with the 3 other panelists, like I was getting blown the fuck up. And I still work a 12-hour workday, and I still like to get my reading in, and I still cook and clean for myself and have errands I need to run and everything like that. And so getting 12 to 20 paragraphs saying exactly the same thing, sometimes like I just don't have the bandwidth to respond to everybody when everybody's like saying the same thing, and I have to tailor make my response to exactly what they said in a way that I feel like they will understand it, or they're going to pick it up. And so sometimes I'll be like, man, just fuck you. Okay. Like, fuck out of my face. I truly don't have time for this. Like, you're only engaging with this kind of content because like you want to fuck around with the intellectual heavy hitter, or what you think is an intellectual heavy hitter. Like, I really don't have time for that. Truly, I don't. And I don't want to do the emotional heavy lifting for you when I've laid out everything that I used in order to come to the conclusion that I have.
Right.
Like, I gave every study, I gave every book, I gave every politician and quote and example from my everyday life. You have everything you need in order to understand why I came to the conclusion that I came to. And if you disagree with me on a fundamental level, then you don't have to come to me about that shit. Like, you understand that you disagree with me on a fundamental level, and there's nothing that is going to change it higher up the chain, because on a fundamental level, we disagree. Like, fuck out of my face with that. Like, I truly can't stand that.
I think this is where you and I are definitely different, right? Because I'm willing to have the conversation over and over again with a person, because I do have the bandwidth for it. But I tell people, like, hey, if this is going to be a conversation we're going to have multiple times, then one, I'm famous for saying this. Remember, you asked for this, right? There's no turning off the valve. If you want to have this conversation, we'll have it whenever you want to have it. But we got to be honest about wherever the conversation is going. Two, even for instance, our private conversation after the abortion topic, shout out to you, D Love, Laney, and Lizzie Lou. Video did great. There were 30 people in there that night. People wanted to have the conversation. But like I said, I came to you and I brought something up because I wanted it to be honest when we move forward. I thought it would be wrong of me if we ever got into that topic to you remember the contents of the conversation, and it will remain private unless you guys join our Patreon, and then we might we'll screenshot that conversation. Got a little heated, right, DaVinci?
I said what I said and I meant it.
I said what I said, and I love you. And that's the thing that people don't know about me. I will always give you my character defects, like, hey, you should know this about me. It's not to manipulate you. I just want to make sure that I'm being accountable. I think that's another thing that people don't do, and when engaging the opposition, know your own shortcomings, folks. Know your own triggers, right? It is not the opposition's job to make sure you're not triggered. And as much as I dislike that word, it really isn't their job to make sure that you don't become emotionally unstable during the conversation. You need to know the things that are going to set you off, and this will help your argument even more. I believe in something called the Socratic line of questioning, and this is how I've self-therapized myself while going to therapy. I ask myself these questions that are completely annoying in regards to my own view, because I need to know what's going to set me off, because nothing's going to stop intelligent conversation quicker than me screaming in the microphone, right? But you gotta know what sets you off. What say you?
Absolutely. I'm of the mind that you're responsible for your triggers.
Right.
You're responsible for managing them. If you can't continue with the conversation because it will make you unstable, then 100% be like, hey, I gotta bow out right here. Or, hey, I gotta take a breather. Like, for me, I really don't. I don't take care of myself sometimes in conversations, because I realize that a lot of the times people take me like bowing out of a conversation as, oh, I've got the intellectual high ground, and like, you are here for more stupid than me. You know what I mean? And they'll be like, oh yeah, she can't handle the heat and all that kind of stuff like that. And sometimes I feel like I'm letting other people down. And so like that's why sometimes it's hard for me to step back from a conversation. And especially the one that we had about the abortion conversation. I prepared for that for weeks. That was an especially expensive conversation. I paid to get the viewpoints of lawyers. A really expensive lunch. I'm still paying for it.
Stop using the credit card.
I had to make sure that I was extremely prepared for that. Like, had to do some deep breathing, had several bottles of water, because I knew my voice is gonna crack or get dry, because like I was so like it's such an issue that's like near and dear to my heart, because women are near and dear to my heart, and I know that it makes me angry to talk about things like that. So I just have to be prepared for it going in, or else, like, man, y'all might have got some shit. I might have docked someone on live.
Well, that's the next thing, right? And it's true, because like here's the deal, right? A lot of people, you're not built for this, right? There are certain the four of you women handled yourself amazingly up there. And I was extremely nervous going into that. I was nervous for myself, not y'all. I was like, this is it. I'm finally going to push it too far. This is going to be the thing that gets me kicked off the planet Earth. But it was, you had the conversation. For instance, Cynthia and I are planning something where, Cynthia and I disagree on some fundamental things, right?
Oh my God. And I hear about it every time both of you are in the same room.
Again, I always say the same thing. You asked for this. I'm always minding my business, and y'all want to come poke the bear, and then hashtag hold up TV merch. You asked for it. But It's the way Cincy and I will choose to engage, right? It's a conversation. It's not a formal debate. We're going to share our viewpoints. And at the structure, at the crux of the whole thing, there is an admiration and respect I have for Cincy. He is my brother. He's my partner at the Hold Up TV. He holds me down. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to attack him. And I think people don't know how to do that. They don't know how not to attack the other person because they get triggered, right? And this is something I'm going to give to you. Go ahead.
That's not it's not the same, because like most of the time people aren't engaging with somebody that they care about when having these conversations. I think that they would be more gentle with their delivery if they were. I mean, of course there are people who wouldn't be, but like I think the majority of people are more gentle with their delivery. They actually try to listen when it's somebody that they actually care about. But the majority of people having these conversations, they don't care about the other person. And so like when I say like, oh, autonomy is a big issue for me, like if that doesn't affect you and you don't care about me, like you have no there's no reason for you, or in a lot of people's minds, there's no reason for you to be gentle with be gentle with my feelings.
But here's the thing, it's not about being gentle. So I disagree with you only from the position of like where I'm sitting at the table. I am harder on people I know, right? I'm harder on people I know because it's like, yo, you knew that this was going to be what it was. You knew it. You knew that. Now, and when engaging with people I'm not familiar with, you say this often, I can't teach people empathy, but I can teach people that there's a rule for conversation. And that's why when it comes to going into social platforms, showing up to someone's Spoon Live, the Twitch Live, you got to read the room, man. You have to read the room. But what did you come for? Did you come for conversation or did you come for blood? Because if you came for blood, then you have to be willing to receive that same type of energy. Famously,
I don't know if I agree with you there. I truly don't, because like I think that you are very gentle with my feelings, even if you are hard on my ideology. Like you ask me questions like are you okay continuing, like you did with our previous lives, like hey, is everybody good? You did a mental check-in. Like even if you're hard on the ideology, you're gentle with my feelings when you're having a conversation with me. Like you'll be like, hey, my sister, like I know that this week was particularly hard, or hey, I'm saying this in love and da da da. And so no, I disagree with you. You are completely very gentle with my feelings, even if you are hard on the idea.
Okay, well, yeah, well, I'm different with say my immediate core group like you guys, but I don't pull punches when we're going at it. You know what I'm saying? But I've learned, but that goes back to one of my other points. I'm not attacking you. I'm attacking the idea, but I'm not going to take it easy on you, and I don't expect you to take it easy on me because you're like a sister to me. Like I'm gonna come at your ideas. It's just I'm not gonna attack you. I'm not gonna air you out. But I'm like, you say something that I don't agree with, I'm gonna respond to you differently, especially if you attack something I believe, than I would a stranger. Let me give
That's what I'm saying, Steve. Like
I know, it's just a
no.
At this point, let me move on here. Famously, in your Discord, not your Discord, in your Spoon Live, that poor soul, I almost called him an idiot, but he really was a troubled young man that came in saying the things that I can't repeat on Twitch or YouTube or even friggin' Anchor. Like I was gentle with that gentleman because I recognized that he came looking for blood. What he didn't expect was that people were going to stand up to him. My point is, though, you have to learn the rules of the conversation. If we're having conversation, there's no need to attack each other. The things he was saying were completely, it was insanity. He didn't buy into the agreement of the conversation. And I think that's something that maybe let me try to articulate it better, which is if we're having a conversation and it's a group conversation and it's multiple people, I feel as if though we should all agree on the terms of the conversation, right? Whether you be strangers or not. I always started off with like, I don't really want to have an argument. I want to have an exchange of ideas. If no one else is into it, let's move on. Or, but I don't want this to be a bloodbath. I'm not here to attack you. Let's have a conversation. Make sense or no?
No, it definitely makes sense. I still disagree with you.
Y'all
Because
me on the strength sometimes.
I'm sorry. I do. I truly do. Like you're 100% softer with the people that you care about than like the people you have no connection with, and like that's just on like an emotional type thing. Because like you'll attack all ideas all day, but if you know that I'm sensitive about something, like you're wary of it, you'll be like, hey, I'm gonna say this, but I just want you to be prepared for it. Like, and that's how you start like the majority of our tough conversations. Like, I'm gonna say this, but I'm gonna say it in love, and I hope you recognize the energy that I'm coming with, because like I'm not trying to be mean or no shit like that. So fuck out of my face,
Don't
because that's how you do.
don't. I'm trying to make a point here. You're trying to make me look soft in front of these people. I treat you people
You are a marshmallow.
So you're gonna have the Hebrew Israelites quoting this part. I told you that motherfucker was a marshmallow. He's white. And to those brothers, I say, I'm coming back to Facebook soon. I haven't forgot about you. I know I've been neglecting you guys for about a month, 3 months or so. I'll be back. I've just been having better conversations with Cincy. I'll be back for you guys later. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. I feel like we had a great talk tonight, and but some house cleaning before I do, folks. In the description on YouTube on the replay is DaVinky's Discord. Join that Discord for some great conversations, and also support DaVinky when DaVinky goes live, because you can be tuned into more conversations. In the description after this video ends, you'll have Dope Dynamics, other projects that we work on together, and I appreciate all of you for coming out tonight and supporting. Let's continue to grow this thing together. I think we made the point, so I don't want to labor it. I appreciate you, DaVinky, even though you tried to make me look like a soft marshmallow. I feel attacked. I'm triggered. I'm going to have to go find my safe space now. I don't know if I have
my buddy, you guys. He's real nice to me.
I'm a friend of no one. I'm a professional hater. And
Ooh, before I forget, if you guys tune into my server, especially the ladies, if you guys tune into the server, I know that there have been some laws passed recently that restrict our bodily autonomy. In the server, I have posted over 1,000 gynecologists that are willing to do ablations, hysterectomies, tubal ligations, give birth control, things like that. So if you're having trouble finding one, I have them for all 50 states. Stay smart.
On that note, I also want to do some more promotion. Thursday nights, Power Love Latinas, hosted by D Love, Kathy, and Carmen Rios. Make sure you tune in. Power Love Latinos comes on at 8 p.m. Eastern. Never miss an opportunity to hear about another culture and the way they represent themselves and their cultures. 3 moms sharing their love of Latino culture together. Make sure you tune into Thursday nights as well. Request Box Live, now hosted by the amazingly talented DJ Cincy Star, 10 p.m. Theme-based stream with amazing DJ sets. Friday nights, also hosted by DJ Cincy Star over on the Hold Up TV. Booty Pop and Shaking Friday nights. I've said this about Cincy for many a moon now. If you're not tuning in, you're missing out on a real talent, and you're going to regret it, because when he blows up, he's not going to return your text message. So make sure you tune in for that. And then on Friday nights as well, you have Enough Said Radio, also on Saturday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern. And then, who am I missing? The Fat Mantis, Wednesday nights, Rogue Planet, 8 p.m. All your nerd commentary. Oh, wait. I know you don't like talking about this type of stuff. I know you don't. Have you seen the fan-made Dragon Ball Z tribute that dropped the other day?
Oh, not the one that dropped the other day. There's plenty of them.
No, this is you. So you haven't seen it. I'm going to send it to you. It's if you're an anime fan, this is the most beautiful tribute to any anime that people grew up watching. Even the opening, I'll send it to you. It's amazing, folks. It's your boy Steve. It's your lady Da Vinci. I guess we agreed on some stuff tonight. Did we agree or no? I don't agree with you. I am not soft. Don't come up with I promise you. Da Vinci's setting you up. If your name isn't D, Bex, Da Vinci, Sensi, Berlin, Kathy, Carmen, Pony, if you come looking for a debate and you think we're friends, you're gonna get a different energy. But you know,
oh, stop that, Steve. That's not what it is.
I'm out of here, man. I love
He's a sweet pea. Oh, by the way, if you need to get in contact with me for help with any resources for women, you can email us at thefeministarup@gmail.com. Please don't forget to join the server. Da Vinci #2013. Thank you.
I'm warning you, you asked for it. Anyone that engages me in a debate, you asked for it.
He's a sweetheart. Don't listen to him. The sweetest person you'll ever meet.
She's setting you up. She's setting you up. I'm warning you.
Now, do I look like a person who would set people up?
Yes.
Absolutely not.